Donald Trump is expected to travel to the Middle East and also Western Europe. And interestingly enough, other countries are planning for his visits by making sure that they, keep his accommodations in mind, make sure they keep his diet in mind. And one thing that he really likes is well-done steak with ketchup, like children do. So I know this is a petty story, but there's a point to it, so just hold, okay? So over the course of 9 days, he is scheduled to visit Saudi Arabia, Israel, a G7 meeting in Sicily, a Nato summit in Belgium, and the Vatican. All of this worries me just because I don't know what kind of trouble he's gonna cause when he's visiting all these places.
A lot.
Now, in Saudi Arabia, they will offer Trump his preferred dish alongside traditional local cuisine, such as lamb and rice. It is part of a worldwide effort to accommodate America's homebody president. Okay, so he loves well-done steak with ketchup. So that's one of the things that they're going to provide when he visits Saudi Arabia. And the steak will be prepared with Sharia law in mind. So they're gonna make sure it's prepared in halal fashion and all that.
Only to
so
burn it.
So that's the part that I think is interesting, because A, does he know, and B, is he gonna freak out and think that if he eats that steak, his body's gonna blow up or something? Like I'm amused by that. But I'm also more amused by the fact that he likes well-done steak. That is unacceptable.
So first off, on the Sharia law stuff, so it's normal, it's halal, right? So it's the same thing that Jews do, Muslims do. They both don't eat pork, for example, and there's certain ways that you're supposed to kill the animal to make it kosher or halal. But in America, if you say Sharia law, people's heads explode. They're like, oh my God, they're gonna submit Trump to Sharia law.
Yeah.
And you know that if you eat a halal meat prepared in the way that Sharia law says you should prepare it, you automatically become Muslim.
So Julie Pace from the Associated Press was very careful to not use Sharia law when reporting this story. She said Sharia compliant. And I think that's a much better way of reporting it, so like people's heads don't explode. But yeah, like the Sharia part of it is hilarious to me, because just that word, of course, immediately makes people freak out, right?
So let's just educate a little bit. All the Sharia law means is the different laws and rules and regulations of the Quran as interpreted by the local Muslim clerics of the time, okay? Now, and different Muslims interpret Sharia law differently and have different sets of rules and regulations. So it goes from the stuff that you might know, where ISIS beheads someone and goes, this is because of Sharia law, right? Which, by the way, Saudi Arabia also beheads people because of Sharia law. Then there's the benign Sharia law of how do you cook your steak? What divorce law should be applied? And so every once in a while there'd be, Jews, Christians, and Muslims in America will say, hey, my religious customs should apply here when you're considering our divorce, right? So Catholics, for example, with annulment, yada yada. So when Muslims do it,
I'm bored with all of this.
I know, it's insane, it's insane. Anyway, so when Muslims do it, they go, okay, now because of Sharia law, this is how we should get divorced, and everybody's heads explode. Oh no, Sharia law's coming! Everybody's gonna have their steaks well done with ketchup. Okay, that's a Trump thing. That's Trump Sharia. Anyway, all right, so that's the Sharia part. The ketchup and this is the part where people go, I'm not with this crowd, okay? And this crowd is led by Ben Mankiewicz. Okay, he thinks having your steak well done is what monsters do.
Listen, I just think, look, it's not just, you have to take it all into context, right? So if you like good food, but you just don't like the bloody steak, I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you. Maybe a little bit behind the scenes, but to your face, I won't judge you at all. The ketchup, I like ketchup, right? I'm human, but it's just the fact that he likes well-done steak with ketchup on top of his McDonald's and his Oreo cookies and all these other really terrible things. And I like those things too, but one of the reasons why I eat those things is because I'm poor, especially compared to Donald Trump, right? So if I was wealthy, I'd be eating all sorts of high quality food. You know what I mean? Like, you have an obligation and a responsibility to the rest of humanity to eat really, really high quality food if you're a billionaire, right? I'm angry
Enjoy
that
your
he
life,
eats McDonald's. Like, and by the way, I like McDonald's. There's nothing wrong with it, but the fact that he prefers that crappy, bad quality food over good quality food, like, enrages me. He's not even enjoying his wealth.
I totally disagree.
Yeah, I think he is enjoying his wealth. I think there's a reason why Trump is so relatable to certain groups of folks. And this kind of speaks to it. I think it's interesting that there is this kind of like class argument built into his preferences that he is Trump, but he's eating his steaks well done with ketchup. Whatever, it's unsurprising. I think if he wasn't so otherwise unlikable, this would be a quirk, right? But like because we just don't like him, it's like,
yeah, like if
of course.
Like if Elizabeth Warren liked ketchup on her steak, I'd be like, that's endearing.
Totally.
I'm being fair. I'm being honest. I'm being fair and honest. Okay.
Okay. Are you kidding me? If Bernie ate it that way, everybody'd be like, Bernie,
Yeah,
that's what ketchup.
Right. Totally. Yes.
But I do. To be fair to the Bens of the world, and I'm not even sure that I think I heard him say this, but I know Ben well enough that, like, if anybody ate their steak well done, Ben would think it was monstrous, even if it was Bernie. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. But the bottom line is actually, so I actually think it's slightly endearing. Like you think Newt Gingrich being whipped by his wife is slightly endearing. I happen to think that this is a quirk that I kind of like. I don't like it well done, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Who cares,
How
right?
do you like your steak?
Okay, medium rare, like an American. Okay, okay.
It's kind of the way.
But I don't want to do a Fox News and how they criticize Obama for having a burger with mustard and yada yada.
Right.
Okay, but the overall tenor of the entire trip goes to exactly who Donald Trump is. Where they tell him, okay, you're gonna do a 9-day trip. And he's like, oh, that's so long. I like home. I don't want to go away for that long. Yeah. And he says, can we make it 5 days? They're like, no, we can't make it 5 days.
Right.
You've got to go and you got to deal with Nato and you got to deal with Saudi Arabia and Israel. And this is so important. He's
Why did he run for president? I don't understand.
For power and wealth and all that. Anyway, so then they're like, okay, then you're gonna go to Saudi Arabia, but can you do my steak with ketchup and really well done? Okay, I know, like everything about him is a child. That's how children eat their food, right? With the ketchup, etc.
Anybody can make that steak that way. It should not be a concern that you can't get a well-done steak with ketchup anywhere.
So, overall, on this whole story, I pardon him, okay?
Yeah.
But he is a child and you know it. If you're a member of the Young Turks, you not only get the whole 2-hour Young Turks show on demand anytime you want, ad-free, but you also get so many other shows. Old School, you'll love it. Aggressive Progressive for guys who are true progressives. Now also Nerd Alert for gaming and tech. What the Flick for movie reviews. You will love it. Check it out right now at tytnetwork.com/join.